Hi, I'm Steve from Oasis, and for any mums watching today, happy Mother's Day. And by a wonderful coincidence, we're looking at the announcement in Luke 1 that Mary will be the mother of the long-awaited Jewish Messiah, Jesus Christ, who will come to rescue his people and whose kingdom will never end. And this is very surprising news to Mary, who incidentally is in the 13 to 18 age band, probably. And she's not a princess. She's of low social status. She's not living in Jerusalem or in Rome, but in an obscure part of Israel, and probably living in some degree of poverty as well, yet she is chosen and favoured by God. That's the word that's used a couple of times in this passage. She's been favoured for this wonderful role. And this whole account fits very well in Luke's gospel, because one of his major emphases is that Jesus is the bringer of good news to the poor, to the social outcasts of the day, and to women, to those who were regarded as inferior at that time. And for such a young woman, Mary's response is extraordinary. To me, she stands out as one of the most remarkable characters in the whole Bible. Let's briefly look at her obedience, or her submission to the will of God, as expressed by the angel Gabriel. Firstly, her obedience was unconditional. We need to realize that this scenario is totally different to other miracle babies in the Bible. There had never been a virgin birth before, and there will never be one again. Mary couldn't look to Abraham and Sarah or Zachariah and Elizabeth as those who had lived through what she will have to. They were married, for one thing. Now, new babies are wonderful, right? We know that because we have one in our household at the moment, not belonging to Rosie and I hasten to add. But at this time, if you were an unmarried mother, you would have been the subject of shame, of ridicule, of criticism. But look at her response to the angel Gabriel. She says this: "Behold, I am the servant of the Lord. Let it be to me according to your word." That is an amazing response. She doesn't say no. She doesn't say maybe. She doesn't say yes, but, or yes, if. Just a complete acceptance of the will of God for her life. Secondly, her obedience doesn't mean no questions. But the question she raised wasn't like Zachariah's unbelief. He was saying, how are you going to prove this to me? Her question was biological rather than theological. She was wondering, how am I going to conceive and yet still remain a virgin? That's a good and natural question, eh? And Gabriel's response about the Holy Spirit overshadowing her may or may not have made things a whole lot clearer to her. But ultimately, she needed to trust Gabriel's follow-up comment, which was this: "For nothing will be impossible with God." And some of us need to hear that phrase today. For whatever you're facing today, this week, whatever situation you're in, hear this: for nothing will be impossible with God. What a statement. Thirdly, and finally, about Mary, her obedience brought blessing. That word features strongly in this verse, in these verses. You know, we don't always see it or feel it, but every act of obedience brings blessing and reward, either in this life or in the life to come. In the same way, every act of disobedience invites discipline. As it's Mother's Day, let me just highlight this for a moment. A good mum or dad will not let disobedience go unaddressed. And no parent is perfect in this. I know certainly I failed many times in this, but we need to know that constant disobedience, if unchecked, will spoil a child. And one of the great challenges of parenting is to address disobedience consistently, thoroughly, lovingly, and purposefully. Unaddressed disobedience has the potential to mess up our lives too, not just a child's life, but any human life. So when God steps in to discipline us at times, that's an expression of his grace and his kindness towards us. But let's get back to Mary. Her mission was tough, but it brought huge blessing to her. And the last verses of Luke are a loud explosion of Holy Spirit anointed, joyful worship by Mary and Elizabeth together. You've got a baby leaping in the womb. You've got Elizabeth being flooded with the Holy Spirit and shouting out loudly. Clearly, they are having a whale of a time. They're meeting with God together. And they're enjoying what's going on. They're enjoying that sense of what Jesus will accomplish when he's born, and the sense of favor that they both have of being invited in to play a part in what God is doing on planet Earth. And right towards the end, Mary says, sings, or shouts this: "For he who is mighty has done great things for me, and holy is his name." And you know, if you're a follower of Jesus Christ, that is true for you. He who is mighty has done great things for you. So let's obey God's callings to us unconditionally. Let's receive every spiritual blessing made available to us in Jesus Christ. And let's worship him with the same utter abandonment and trust as Mary did. God bless you. Have a great day. Hope to see you soon.